Bad day for my customer. Ran it out of oil. Let's see if you can hear it. So this is what we have sitting in the unlucky corner today. This is a 2016 Yamaha Wolverine. It's essentially a Yamaha Rhino, but this is a newer version. So it's a Wolverine, and I think it was run out of oil, which you all know what happens when it was run out of oil. I do not think that it was the operator's fault necessarily. Yeah, they could have checked the oil, but they drove, I said almost like 100 miles, and it was halfway through the trip or something, it started making this noise, and I just thought it was actually just a clogged fuel injector or something. You're going on dirt roads, you can't really hear anything. As far as I know, there is no low oil pressure warning light on the dash that I can see, so I don't think that went off. But essentially, I put in 2 quarts to bring it up on the level. It only holds about 2 1/3 quarts when it's empty, so you do the math of how much oil is not in there. Let's fire it up, let you guys listen to it, see if you guys can hear. Here we go. I don't know if you can hear that little bit of a rattle. I'll rev it up for you. I think we got to tear apart the top of the engine. To me, it sounds like something in the top. I wonder if the camshaft's just completely eaten or something. I don't know. We'll find out. Keep watching. You know, I see some, you see a little bit of a metallic. See how much just dirt and like burnt there is in those little bit deeper, thicker spots? I know it's hard to see, but the oil that was in there is just so contaminated with carbon and everything else and so burnt up that it's just exhausted. The filter would have pulled out all the metallic shiny, so we'll pull out the filter, cut that open, see what that looks like. I have a whole video on how to open these without getting debris in it, without chopping your hand off, but see what we look like in here. Oh yeah, look at the sparkles. Actually not as bad as I thought, but there we go, not good. Billion bolts, and the bed is off. You see a few parts sitting right here. I decided to pull out the seats and everything. I actually wanted to look at the belt, make sure like none of the you know, none of the sound was coming from there. I think it's piston slap. I could be wrong, but got the bed removed, and then there's just a heat shield, and then there's a plastic shield right here. Just a bunch of plastic. Didn't take me long. Kind of just looked around through the inspection camera down the spark plug hole, and everything looks good in there. So I have to remove the cover over here. It's right here to actually be able to see my timing marks and stuff. You know, get that all situated in time so I can remove the cam chain. But then I got to pull the cylinder head off first, and then the cylinder sleeve, and then we'll be able to look. You guys can't really see, but the camshaft looks flawless. So I'm actually going to just check right now before I loosen anything. I'm going to check the valve lash on these 4 valves. Chain tensioner is loose. One of the ways, the way you tell whether or not your timing chain is worn out, or any chain for that matter, is if it lifts off the back side of the sprocket right here, so it's touching over here and over here, if you can lift it off, then it's worn out, because it's only gripping on the outside teeth and it's going to wear out all your teeth. This chain actually seemed really tight. I checked my valves, and I was 6.6 and 11 and 9, all barely. This one was barely within spec, but it's within spec. Make sure. Yep. Looks beautiful. The exhaust. The intake. Holding pressure on this so it doesn't fall off that gear on the bottom, or the sprocket on the bottom. They look great. Bagged and tagged. Make sure you bag everything like this, because if you have like dust or something blow over it, you'll get dust in all, like in this ball bearing and stuff, and you'll never be able to clean it out. Right now, it's clean. You know, you pulled out of the engine, it's engine clean. So a mile just cleaning over the top, and it'll be ready to go back in without me sitting there spending 15 minutes cleaning this up. This uses valve like shims, these little buckets, and a little disc for the actual valve lash, which I hate. So it's just this little disc. Hate them. I don't know. A little bit. Drop my dowel. How many dowel pins are there? Bring this up. And hook my bungee cord. Rehook my bungee cord. And there is the cylinder head. A little bit of carbon, not bad. Here's your noise. Piston out. Here we go. Scoring on the side of the piston. Wore out the side. So the whole skirt's just gone. But you see all the crosshatch still in there. But there's a spot right there. The crosshatch is gone. See, the underside is still good. They have this little wear plate, you know, and that's still just fine. It's just that is bad. The rod bearing feels good. How much dust can we stir up? Yeah, a lot. There is one groove right here that I can feel. I can't really feel any of the rest of it. None of it, but just one right here. And it goes up probably within 1.5 inches of the top, which if this was mine, I would probably just hone it and send it, because you're going to be 80% as good as a new engine, you know. But in engines like this, it costs more than a jug costs to go and get this honed out and get bigger pistons, so there's really no reason to do it. You just buy a new whole jug, piston, rings, and assemble it and go. That's what you do in these. Used a precision straight edged, and it is dead straight. And now we got some carburetor cleaner just sitting on it, and it's not leaking at all. It is a month later, and we have parts, lots of parts. So ready to put it back together. We got a new cylinder, jug, new piston, new head gasket, base gasket, head bolts. We're going to go through the valve seals because these things are notorious for burning oil. We have piston ring clips. And the thing that took over a month for this entire thing to come together, because they wouldn't ship it without, is this little teeny watch size thing right here, which is a valve shim. That's how you adjust your valves with different thicknesses, and that was apparently back ordered for a month. Like nothing. So 2 keepers, loosen it off. These springs actually aren't under that much pressure. And you just pop out your entire spring, and now you can pop the valve out the bottom. That little thing right there, we just got to pull it off right there. Not crushing it, just barely lightly grabbing it. And on this one, it looks like our intake is a gray, and our exhaust is like a call it green. There's enough oil just down on the surface already. So let's take it. And then we pretty much just want to push these on with our thumb. And that's about it. A couple different ways to put these back on. I'll show you this technique. That's something I learned a while ago. Put the spring on. Put our 2 keepers in. Okay. Get a piece of plastic. Throw that over. I'm going to use this. I don't know if you guys will be able to see. I'll put my finger on the bottom to hold the valve where it needs to be. And these springs are light enough. They're there. In. The plastic just pushes the keepers down around. Kind of cool trick. See if I can get my hands out of the way where you guys can see. My finger on the valve on the bottom. There. In. Just thought I'd pop this other valve back out just to show you that I already did. See how clean that is? I didn't clean that one up at all. So this intake valve right here was the source of all of the oil consumption in the engine. So that's good. Found the source of the problem. Just transferring stuff over. I actually need to make this gasket. This is actually the old cylinder head. So this is just bulk gasket material. I'll have a whole video on this stuff. But I need a hole about right here. Put 1 bolt hole in. This is just a hole punch. So that'll just punch 1 hole. And I do it usually I do it without a bolt. Sometimes it's nice to put a bolt in. Doesn't really matter. Kind of holds it. Line it up where I want. Take a ball peen hammer. And you're not whacking hard. Just light taps. Right on that edge. I'm using the sharpness of the stuff to cut it. Outside. Now I got my inside in there, so I'm going to hit on that inside edge. Lightly. And that bolt's getting in my way a little bit. And now when it's in there a little bit, it also holds it in place. And I can mark I know where my other bolt hole is. So if I just tap right there, it'll mark it so I can punch it out. There we go. Punched out. Done. Gasket made. And we'll spread them around where they should be. A month later, just waiting for parts. I'm glad I didn't do it in my shop where I'd have to trip over this thing. Water has turned to ice. Got a little bit of water. I tried to cocoon it up as good as possible. Last thing you want when you have engine pieces open is stuff getting in them. Getting it all cleaned up, getting ready to start reassembling it. But I wanted to show you guys why just one side of the piston really got hurt. That's because of this little squirter right here. See a little hole in it? So this squirts oil to the bottom of the piston, And as the oil got low, the stream probably got lower and wasn't squirting to the top up here, because this is the side up here that got scored in the cylinder. It was probably just kind of arching and just lubricating the bottom of the piston, the bottom side, not really the bottom of the piston. And so oil just wasn't making it up to there and burning up. So every time I'd run low and the stream would just get smaller, that's what would happen. The problem is they have this huge taper and you can't really get a ring compressor on it. Okay, I fought with that. So, I just did that. Put it in this way, and now we'll just slide in the wrist pin back into the con rod. Brand new torque to yield. If you don't know what torque to yield means, that means essentially stretch the bolt. So you're using the spring tension of the steel. You know, all steel has a spring back to it, and so they want you to stretch this until you're relying on the springiness of the steel to hold the head on. And so it helps in heating and cooling. So we've got to go 90 degrees, 90 degrees. So 90. 90. 90. Okay, let's put the cams back in. I gotta wrap the chain around them. Then we'll dribble some oil underneath them. So I've rotated there's a timing mark on the side of the engine through a little inspection cover that puts a piston top dead center. That's kind of where I left it, but I just barely adjusted it. So with top dead center, both of my valves should be closed, both sets of valves. So we can kind of use that as a rule of thumb too, even if I hadn't marked. I mean, I put lines on everything. Just you know, when you're reassembling, it just saves you a couple seconds. Now if we were good and we didn't let it slip off of the sprocket on the bottom, and we took it off at top dead center, I should stay at top dead center. And my marks that I put on here, this little mark right there, should stay right there. But whether or not that happened is to be determined. And I have another one over here. If I let it slip off on the bottom, not a big deal. If it slipped a tooth or something, it would just be off a tooth up here and we can adjust it. But it looks like I'm spot on. Just taking the, you know, I left, you know, that's actually pink, that's actually red marks on everything. But if I didn't, you see this little dimple here, here, and then there's one over here and one right there. You line those up. You line the mark up down there, and then you're good to go. So this one right here, we're just barely out. You can be 9 to 13 thousandths, and this one was right at 9, and I might have been pushing that, so it was a little tight. So what you do is you get these right here, these little shims, and they're different thicknesses, and we went just barely thinner, so this should put us right at 11. This is the other exhaust. That one is at 11. Just pull this out for a minute. And these little pucks just sit just like that. So now we got the cam chain tensioner. It's what puts tension on that little plastic piece in here. There's a little screw and spring. So if we screw this in, it retracts the plunger. So we get these bolts kind of started. Now the plunger doesn't actually, like, it won't push in, it locks. So whatever goes out, it locks. I actually have to rotate this to get it to push in. So if I rotate this, I can get it to push in. I put my screws in, my bolts in. And once I have those bolts tightened down, I can just let go of this and it'll run out and put tension on this chain. If I screw it in, let it go, tight. It's like 20 degrees, 30 degrees warmer a month ago when I did this. So the rubber was nice and pliable. Now, it's barely above freezing. It might even be below freezing right in this moment. And so, rubber doesn't want to move very good. Plug right here, temperature. I took the belt cover and stuff off just to inspect the belt, clutch, everything else while it was in here. But this is how you have to remove it, out the back wheel well. And it's not easy, but I guess it is once you know how. Another tip for you, stop putting every single bolt in a box. Where's my bolts for these? They're right there. Where's the bolts for the seats? They're right there. There's just a couple threads in, so I know exactly what bolt goes where. You know, had to remove half of this thing. Well, the bolt's right there, bolt's right there. I know where all my bolts go because they're already in their holes. Yep, it got dark on me. So we've got this cross member that now goes on. Look at this. Label your holes. Yellow, pink for a bracket, pink for another, you know, does it go in that hole? That hole. Well, it came out of that hole. You know, you label everything. You know exactly what bolt goes where. Makes reassembly way easier. There's a pink line there. Put a pink line there. Saves a ton of time. Paint pens, baggies, piece of cardboard. So I've topped off the antifreeze. Looks like it's full. There was a little air bleeder. I bled that last night, but I have not attempted to start it. It was down in the 20s last night, and it's right at freezing right now. So we'll see. It's fuel injected, so it'll likely just fire right up. Ginger will tell me whether or not it sounds correct. Yeah, she says it does. We'll give her a minute to warm up. I'm gonna get my thermal camera and actually make sure coolant and stuff is passing where it should be. That's ice. What do you think? It's ice? Yeah, it's ice. Okay, run away. See you later, dog. It's nice knowing you. No, go. Go. Sliding, there we go. That's what we call slippery. Hey, hop back in. Get back in. Let's get ourselves out of this predicament. You have fun? Of course you did. You always have fun. Put about 15 miles on it. I think it's ready to go back to the owner, but I think I gotta wash it now. Dang it. Mud stalactites. Yeah, gotta wash it. They're not too happy when you bring it back muddier than when they left it.